Yes, it's my real name. I was raised by a Pentecostal preacher from Mississippi in Portland, Oregon, which probably explains a lot. I wrote and performed my first song for my dad's church when I was just 10. Been a soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Been married, divorced, closeted, out, drunk for years, and sober for years. Been a good dad and a bad dad, and somehow lucky enough to be a young grandpa. This show exists because I'm a creator, and if something inspires me, there's a pretty good chance it'll inspire you too. Music, science, art, politics, religion, adorable cats and dogs, awe and gratitude, or why we laugh at our own farts. Somehow along the way, I decided to go left instead of right, and now I'm addicted to breaking habits and noticing things. I'm Buddy Rasberry, and this is my show.
Woke up and decided I would deviate.
Yes, it worked. Now, gotta go over here and bring this over to where I can actually see it. And I just have to trust that, I gotta pull this. The whole point of wearing this hat is so that you can see how awesome. Boom. We got it. We're going to work this out together. Okay. That works, I think. It's going to go down in history like this. This is how it opened. This is how it all started. That's the beautiful thing about this whole contraption being on wheels. There's my backdrop that I want. All right. First episode. So I have notes for myself to follow because anybody who knows me and anything about how I like to have conversations knows that I can easily bunny trail, and I am going to try and keep myself on track because I need to break the ice and get used to how this is going to go. So a couple things to get out of the way. I want to test out my shameless ability to advertise my little single here. My single DB8 is out now, streaming on all platforms. Yes, even the evil green one for now. I forgot to unclick that one, I guess. I'm still thinking about it. I get it. Don't come at me. But Apple Music pays me more. YouTube Music pays me more. So if you want to find it there, let me know. You don't have to let me know. Just do it. I'll find out. I appreciate it. Boom. There goes that. Well, all right. So the Buddy Rasberry Show. What the hell is the Buddy Rasberry Show, and why is Buddy Rasberry doing the Buddy Rasberry Show? So lots of third-person sounding stuff there. That's not creepy, I promise. I am not diagnosed. I put that opener together to kind of help me keep my North Star in check as well, because frankly, been through a lot of stuff, going through a lot of stuff, and I almost am going to integrate, and I was thinking about this earlier today when I was thinking about that I was going to definitely do this tonight no matter what, come hell or high water. And the first initial part of this is exactly what I expected, the flush, I'm not going to panic. I've been on stages before, and it's there's that moment. There's just anyone who ever has been on a stage before knows that there's that moment where it's like reality is about to either crumble or you're about to discover a whole new plane of existence that you can step into from time to time in order to be basically whatever you need to be or want to be or can be or have been asked to be, perhaps. I'm thinking about things like anyone who knows me knows that I kind of swear like a sailor. And so I'm going to attempt to try and keep this as like across all platforms as possible so that anyone could listen to it with their kids and all that stuff. There's going to be an audio only version of this. And so even if I were to put, so Ecamm is what I'm using. And I say that because I may even like grab clips from this in order to get some feedback from them, because I know that they're actually a pretty open group of people there. And so things like, even if I were to put my headphones on right now, normally you would see someone with their headphones on for a podcast. It would actually change the sound of my mic. And I've done a lot of things that you would normally do to check that. I've gone to my settings and I've changed the sources and made sure I knew what was doing what, and still haven't been able to figure that one out. And so even then, I don't really get to hear myself. So it's not really helping me out as a monitor. And things like cats needing to escape the room will happen while I'm doing this show, especially while I'm doing it live. I'm not sure. There's probably going to be live versions and edited versions. So I'm going to pop out and I'm going to let this cat out real quick. All right. No biggie. And yeah, so the North Star is the intro for at least everything that's brought me to this point, but the show is not about me. The first episode is a little bit about me in ways that I don't think I've ever really gotten out, that are, well, especially from me myself in real life. Like I've posted a lot of things over the years, and if you've pieced anything together, if you've followed me since high school, which is entirely possible, which is crazy if you think about it, then you may have pieced together the whole storyline, and this is all redundant to you. However, I'm stepping into this in ways that I hope will be evergreen, and just really trying to be thoughtful and full of intention. My thing is I don't want to necessarily read from a script, even though I've got scripts for me. So I wanted to deliberately kind of keep myself floating and hovering over the natural opener of just introducing myself. And the the fun part is that I definitely am like, I'm looking at a nice solid piece of clay that is ready to be molded. And so even just down to the fun little details of creating my own frame for the screen that you're looking at right now, super fun, super fun. And right off the bat, I'm just going to be like bold and say, if you know anybody who wants to put their logo, or, like, consider this my helmet, right? Let's see if I can do this right. Consider this my helmet. Let me learn my camera here. Oh, okay. I see. Oh, Lord. Oh, I'm gonna have to learn this if I'm gonna do the thing where I'm like pointing. Okay, I'll have to give myself some exercise on that one. Either which way, shamelessly, I will say, if anyone wants to advertise and or sponsor any segments or what have you, when I am tearing these down and editing these together after the fact, after the live one, because I don't know how many I'm going to do live. I don't know how many I'm going to do pre-recorded and edited. I'm fully capable of doing the editing it into something that is flawless if I really wanted to, and that's not what I'm trying to do. I think this is that's why I'm looking at this as a completely different channel for me. And so let's talk about that for a second. There we go. That opened itself up. I like it when that happens. So my channels are my writing, my channels are my singing, and my channels are my fellowship discussion type things. And that comes from being raised the way I was. And so I was raised by a Pentecostal preacher from Biloxi, Mississippi, and Portland, Oregon. I've got a lot of siblings. If I were to try to actually get the accurate number right now, I would get it wrong probably. Let's see. So we've got anyway, a lot. And then all at the same time, there's more than one of us that are kind of like only children in our own right, because it's a mine, yours, and ours situation. So lots of adoption, lots of married multiple times and all that stuff. And so we'll crack that open, and at some point I'll probably even put together something that I can, a nice little illustration that I'll be able to play along with all of that, and it'll be good. It'll be good. But to just really kind of keep myself focused on this first episode, my upbringing was one that was fully devoted to my imagination. And when the big shift happened, probably around when I was like 6, when all of a sudden MTV got turned off and the TV got taken out of the living room, and all of a sudden it was like Dad found God and we were going back to what, and boom, all of the energy was focused on, for me, the music of church. And then of course my mind losing itself, trying to imagine all of the crazy things that were being thrown at it as a child. Like, I just, even, I mean, I was definitely enough time before having been raised. I wasn't raised from day one, right? So there was this beautiful pocket of time where I was like rocking out to Bon Jovi in the living room with my mom and watching MTV, and some of the videos being for movies like Legend with Tom Cruise back then. And like I was definitely rocking out to, I just caught a glimpse of my eyes and I'm like, man, Bubba, you should have had some coffee before you got on here. What's going on? And I'm gonna be real with you. You can tell I got some eyeliner on. Is that I'm not used to putting this little bit of foundation on that I've been just trying out, and like finding out that sometimes if you don't do it right, it accentuates the bags. Someone holler at me, give me some tutorials. Anyway, I can look those up myself, but I just didn't. I just thought I could just throw it on. But either which way, I did have that wonderful little pocket of, we'll call it secularism. And then when all of that had to shift to imagining what was holy about a ghost, that was a trip. But not as much of a trip as it was watching people get slain in the spirit and do the funky chicken dance and all that fun stuff. So if anyone wants to know what kind of Pentecostal I was raised in, it was that kind of Pentecostal. And my dad started off as an assistant pastor, and then so that only lasted so long. If there's anything I can say about how he tended to operate, assistant was never really his gig. He was always only interested in being the head honcho. And so, I mean, he was already my head honcho, so I was used to that. Let's back up a second. I'm trying to remember the opener. Remember I said the opener was going to be my North Star. So the very first thing, and here's the deal. This is why it's a little bit weird for me right now, which, here we go. Y'all were there when breaking the ice, is that I've told this story so many, many, many times that now I'm just like, okay, freshen up. Here we go. But ultimately, yes, it's my real name. I was born Cecil Glenn Whitehead III, and there's definitely like friends from high school who know this. And if this is redundant to you again, I apologize. But I was born Cecil Glenn Whitehead III, and my mom and biological dad got divorced, and then my mom remarried Charles Rasberry. And yeah, I mean, he's my dad, so I'm saying names out loud if anybody's gonna ask. But when he adopted me, I was 3. He's the only dad I know. And my grandma, when I was born, she was basically like, yeah, Cecil's not in the cards for this kiddo. Like, his name is Buddy. And she decided that was going to be that. And so my nickname was always Buddy. And then when Charles adopted me, they made my legal name Buddy, and then his middle name Hugh, and then last name Rasberry. And so my real name is Buddy Hugh Rasberry. So yes, it is my real name. Um, and I say that to say that normal was kind of never in the cards. And so when you're kind of doing things like deciding why you want to have a show and why you want to be a star and why you want to sing and why you want to be on stage and why you want to talk and why you need an audience, those kinds of things, there's little signs you can follow, and then there's just kind of like obvious ones that chase you around your whole life, whether you like it or not. And one thing that I can say, because I've been here my whole life, is that having this name has always come with the question, whether or not I'm a performer, or whether or not I'm a singer, whether or not is it your real name is number one. So I take that with a sense of having, a calling. I call it a calling. I mean, once upon a time, I would have like doubled down on it not just being a calling, but that I was anointed to do this, that, and the other. And there's a lot of Christian vernacular that would have come along with that. And some of that stuff is definitely going to be like, I believe that in the spirit of for such a time as this, that the reason I was raised the way I was raised was also like for such a time as this. So I'm not going to shy away from what I know when it comes to being able to use ancient Hebrew scripture to kind of illustrate certain points with context. I'm not a biblical scholar, but one thing I can say is that I was raised to look at scripture in context. I was raised on 2 Timothy 2:15, and I don't know if I'm going to quote this exactly right, but it's study to show thyself approved, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Something like that. And there's certain things, I have a motto for myself, a mantra, that is eat the meat and spit out the bones. And there's other ways of saying that. There's other ways I've thought of. I mean, in my song Deviate, I clearly sample from Mary Poppins. And, that's another way of saying that, essentially, is spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Kind of, I guess that's another way of saying that. But the eat the meat and spit out the bones is one where I've looked at a lot of things as a deconstructed Christian and still decided, okay, but I'm going to keep that on my plate. And I am cherry picking, and I can be selective like that. And I do that in a way that's not to take anything out of context. In fact, I double down on the context when I do choose to use scripture for any reason. And but more importantly, the spiritual experiences. And I think that I'm not going to try to completely define what this show is going to be like. I don't know enough to know to do that. I just really, that would be foolish. But what I can say is that I know what my life themes are. And I know that I'm really just declaring that this is the Buddy Rasberry Show. And frankly, if you don't want to tune into the Buddy Rasberry Show, well, then God bless, And I ain't trying to kick the dust off my feet, that's just your choice. And I wouldn't be probably, to be honest, because I'm swimming in my own sauce already. Like the hardest part for me about this is having this burning desire to do it, and then the moment I go to do it, I just am immediately, as anyone is, and you guys, like, this is one of those things too. Like, I'm sitting in a room alone right now looking at a camera. I am more comfortable standing in front of like 3,000 people than I am right now. 100%. I'll get used to it. And little things that I also will get used to is saying, hey, you're doing a good job so far, Rasberry. It's only 8:30 and you deserve this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to overshare, just like, I love the internet so much. I love the internet so much. And it's as with anything. And this is why you got to be careful with jumping on bandwagons. Is when you get older and as you live, you really see the double side of everything, and you see the invent of things, and you see the introduction of things more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times, and then it gets very exponential. Let me just tell you, and I can't even imagine how much more exponential it's going to be for the next even just 5 years. It's going to be nuts. Like, I don't know. We're in an age of reconciliation, where it's like only that which can pass will pass kind of situation, where some would call that a refining fire. I don't want to sound apocalyptic because frankly, that's not good. I'm not trying to give them any gas right now because that stupid movie's coming out. God bless them. Oh, we'll talk about that one later. That one's going to deserve its own episode because all of these Christian movies that are coming out right now literally are just. I was a part of a movement in the early 2000s. Well, yeah, early 2000s that was all about the kingdom coming through Hollywood. And so to watch it coming out the way that it is with this current administration that we've got right now, with just everyone so emboldened, I just want to skim on those things. I'm not trying to dive. Okay, North Star. North Star, you're doing good. You're doing good. You got this. Oh, Lord, have mercy. I'm going to take a little break and remind you that when I am not getting cotton mouth in front of a ring light and going live on the various platforms, I am making music. And one thing that I will say is in the last few weeks, I have had some wonderful life developments that have all kind of pointed to tonight, insofar as at least just this episode finally getting, believe it or not, as much as I've been kind of all over the place, I did a lot of pre-production. I actually really thought this through. But I'm really excited. This is the one that I just knew I needed to get out of the way. And I don't say that to say that it doesn't deserve any credence, but I'm very much looking forward to ones where I'm not the only one involved, because I've been reaching out and just being, again, kind of bold in ways that I haven't before, and realizing that for such a time as this, again, and I don't want to just keep using that coined phrase without context. One of the things that I'm going to really, I'm not going to do it tonight because I'm going to try to actually keep myself to an hour and force myself to watch what I could fit into an hour and decide how crazy it sounds without more time, or how I could have sharpened it up. But one of the things I definitely wanted to touch on was that there are a few touchstones that I've kind of created around the show, and I did those not knowing exactly how they're all going to land. One of them is being absolutely unafraid to constantly promote the fact that not enough people listen to my music online yet, and that is 100% my fault. Nobody else's but mine. I have not been putting the time and energy into promoting it and getting out there and playing it live, and I get that. And part of one of the things that's happened in my life over the last 3 weeks is that I was let go 3 weeks ago, and it was in such a way that there's so much serendipity and synchronicity around it that the fact that I had released this song, Deviate, just 2 weeks before I lost my job. And then the week before, I had told my wonderful partner, I'm going to just, no. Hold on, we're just going to keep it there. This is all about deviating. This is about Deviate right now. This is a commercial break for Deviate. I came home on a Monday. I love synchronicity and serendipity, and that will be a theme of my show because it is my show. And anyone who knows me knows that I love this. The other thing that I'm noticing is that I am definitely talking a lot quieter than I normally would because this microphone's right here. And I don't have the instant monitor with the headphones like I normally would. That's just not how I've noticed Ecamm works. And unless I'm wrong, which I'm totally glad to be, because that would be cool. So if I need to speak up, yep. If I need to speak up, then by all means, I'll figure it out later, but you can let me know now. Sorry, I was saying yep. That would have seemed out of context. To Thundercats are a go is the comment from Jordan Eaton. Jordan Eaton, we know who you are. You know who you are. Good to see you. Hope you're well. But I came home on a Monday, And I had told my partner that I was so done with my job that I was already starting to feel grief in my heart for my crew and my coworkers because I was like already starting to say goodbye. And then on a Wednesday, I looked around my office and I was like, you know what? I feel it coming. I just need to manifest. And it wasn't even that obvious in my brain at that time. I wasn't saying I need to manifest, but I was just feeling in that moment like, well, you know, act as though, you're making the move. Act as though that you're making the move. And then and to be clear, none of what I was doing specifically to do that, like clean up or get my personal stuff out of my office, was obvious. Like I was keeping it still just chill, but I was compelled to put my stuff as much as I could in my briefcase and just act as though that I just needed to make sure I was ready. And then Friday I was let go, and that was 3 weeks ago, and I was let go in a way that, thankfully, it was just poof. And when something like that happens, of course, there's moments of panic. There's moments of anxiety that creep around. Like, you can't keep a bird from flying over your head, but you can keep it from building a nest. And there's people who've definitely heard me say that a million times. And I'll probably say it a million more because it's a good one. The Deviate song just felt like, wow, heaven knows how much I want to pour into my art and pour into my music and be able to pour into this, well, calling that I have to really devote myself to community, to relationship. And how does that come about? By having a podcast and a podcast show. There's gonna be other words for that later. Oh, I guess talk show. It's gonna be a talk show. Yeah. Yeah. um we're gonna find out, because that's gonna be part of. I've got some people coming up already that they're like, I guess if you think that I'm that interesting, and I'm like, I do, I do. like, like, that's what I want to do. Like, you may not see it. We'll go ahead and get rid of you now, but I see it, and let's chat about it and let's talk about it. Let's talk about how we can come together in these moments, especially right now, because one of the beacons for the show is always going to be transformation and recovery. Some of the mantras, I guess I'd said that earlier. I left that one hanging. There's some flags that wave a little bit that say, just deconstruction, 100%. But I do believe that there's not enough emphasis put on the reconstruction, and then recovery through discovery. And I think that that's one of the things that I have not talked enough about publicly, in regards to. I definitely mentioned that I was a drunk and that I'm sober now. But this is 10 years, and I want to talk about what recovery has been like for me as well. And it's a 10-year road is a nice solid chunk of time to look back and say, okay, all right. And I like 44. 44 has been a good year so far. And um, the recovery, discovery, deconstruction, and reconstruction are really the things that will be the themes. And what I find right now is that those themes are so universal right now that they have infiltrated every single, whether it's politics, religion, basic community structure, uh, just how people survive, all of those things. It's the I guess I'm trying to, like, really, really, really give you a long disclaimer as to, like, the show's not meant to necessarily be about politics and religion all the time. And I promise it won't. But you know, it's unavoidable So much so that I have done what I do, which is I go truffle hunting and find all of the connections that I can find. And I want to find the roots, and I want to find the roots hard. And I want to really know what's up. And then when I start really just kind of rising to a higher point of view where I look down and I just really allow myself to be elevated in thought in an elevated way that really reminds me of what the Father's heart is like, my Father's heart, not the Father's heart. What it is like, because I have a mother's heart too, and that's one of the beautiful things about being a two-spirit person is that, I've embraced that identity completely, and it is a queer identity. And one of the beautiful things about that, and my kids can attest to this, is that, there's just certain switches that I will flip in different circumstances. But when you pull back and look at it as a big blue dot, which is cheesy as you can get, I'm sure that's just cringe to some people. But when you really do and do the from a distance thing, um, you can use your imagination to do that. You have permission to. Your imagination is a powerful, powerful tool. And that's the thing about this first episode that I know is definitely going to be difficult for me to come back and watch and be like, oh my God, you went there and you went there, but then you forgot to go back there, and then you forgot to come back and tie this part over here and whatever. It's going to be fine. I think one of the biggest things I got to get used to right now is the fact that my partner's in the other room playing video games, and like, I just have to be like, he can't hear me. Although eventually he'll be tuning in. Eventually he'll call in, I promise. I almost forgot to give myself water. Little things like that. So there are some like legitimate reasons that I want to talk, and I want to have a podcast, and I want to have a show, and I'm going to use my life as example. And one of the things, again, I said is that the intro is my North Star. And so in that intro, I mentioned that I've been closeted, I've been out, I've been drunk for years, I've been sober for years, I've been a good dad, I've been a bad dad, and I'm very lucky to be a young grandpa. And I'm going to continue to be all sorts of things, but certain things have their chapters closed, and they are worth diving into, especially when you get to my age. You do look back and you're like, okay, that was for this and that was for that. And if you really start to open up your awe and your gratitude center, you really start to open up for synchronicity and serendipity, and you really start to really see pieces connect. And one of the things about my show, for sure, I could say, like, if I were to say that there is some sort of statement of faith or belief, is that I 100% believe in a creator. And I 100% believe that we come from source, and that there are principles that I want to be able to just chew on the fat for. So like some of this stuff is just going to be nerdalicious if you're into that. Like if you're into theology, there's going to be episodes where I'm just going to be just chewing the fat on some, like, peeling back different things that I have found over the years that I just am excited about, frankly, because we all have our birthright that is the same. We all get to just be as spiritual as we want. But the most spiritual thing we could possibly do is recognize that we came down here to be in the sandbox kind of stuff. And I like to talk about that kind of stuff. I was raised by a preacher, so you're going to feel that in me. And I have to not be ashamed of it. And I'm going to not be trying to squelch it. And I've also got like at least 5 different drag queen personas that live inside me. So I don't even know, girl. That's just the truth of the matter. And the politics of the day just seem so directly from the cult that I grew up in that I just look around and I'm like, okay, 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 okay. I know. I mean, and multiple religious faiths have the same ideology when it comes to the only way that you can truly conquer a demon or manifestation, if you will, is to know its name. And so, one of the things that's been helpful for me through all of this, even though I will say that when Trump got reelected, the PTSD that went through my body and my nervous system was ridiculous. It gave me such an empathy. It reminded me, frankly, first and foremost, that I actually am a recovered victim. And it reminded me to remember that there are more. And in such a way that was not so that I could feel sorry for myself by any means, but um, to see such a resurgence and such a movement, to see our country backslide so hard like that was was so jarring. And I actually love all of the theories that that have still are still continuing to come out. And I, like I said, I truffle and I'm truffling. And frankly, when I truffle, I truffle knowing that if I look at my past, I'm not trying to go and live in my past. I'm looking at what was I doing back there that was co-creating the spot that I'm in right now. And I see the things that I was mentally setting myself up for as like a 5 and 6 and 7 year old. And when I look at where we're at right now with artificial intelligence and white supremacy, I mean, who that's like Skynet is wearing a hood, right? And not saying that artificial intelligence is inherently being white supremacist, whatever that's supposed to mean. If I said that right, I don't think I did. But either which way, what I'm just saying is who would have thought that those would have been the two equations, or just even two things on two of many things. But let's just, if I'm going through the hat and I'm pulling one out and I'm like, who would have thought, you know? Those are the kinds of things that I want to unpack, and I want to unpack them the way that I see them and the way that I've thought about them. And it, I'm starting to feel like maybe this is just one long big, me making an excuse for why I have a show. But to be honest, this is the icebreaker that is inviting also you guys truly to throw any noodle at the wall that you want. Like, I do expect this to be a seed that gets planted, and I expect it to go somewhere. And so I'm going to keep putting my best foot forward when it comes to the production value that I bring to it. And it's for such a time as this moment. And I guess what I'll utilize the time remaining, because I am going to keep myself on a strict schedule again, like I said, to talk about how positioning and mm, basically like almost a type of infiltration happens when we allow ourselves to really crank up the empathy. And I don't want to make excuses for hardcore Christians. I don't want to make excuses for white nationalists, because it's so repulsive that anyone who were to claim to be a follower of Christ and then look at what Christ actually teaches, like, it really takes a lot of effort to reframe that stuff in order to justify those things. And so that's why essentially I'm always looking at the older people who are just brainwashing the younger people, and I'm looking at what my life was like as a brainwashed, charismatic Pentecostal Christian for, gosh, the late 90s and the early 2000s were a great time to be a Christian, but also when we reflect, those of us who know, and we look back at especially those of us who felt called to the ministry, and those of us who like went to like prophecy camps and learned how to lay hands on each other and actually like, and we would just shandalala ourselves for just days fasting, waiting for like gold flakes to manifest on our hands and in our hair. And I could go on and on. And there's certain ministers that are still out there that have not come down yet. But boy, I tell you, we are in an age of reconciliation. And that's one of the things that I felt in my gut because in 2016 I got sober, and that was like a real trip for me to really kind of out of an 8-year fog come into an actual like, okay, I'm gonna start paying attention now. And of course I was Team Hillary. I didn't know nothing. I was coming out of a fog, y'all, and I didn't know nothing about Bernie Sanders. I did not. I just did not know it. I just was like, who's this Larry David guy? And I called that one like way before SNL ever did. I know I did. But either which way, um, it was a trip. And I immediately was like, well, okay, I guess, we got to go through this boiling process because the scum's got to come to I went on Facebook and I was like, unless the scum rises to the surface, y'all, we can't scrape it off the top. We got to just, I wrote a song called Love Trumps. And it's funny too, because I actually forgot that I had done that. And then I wrote my other song. I don't have a graphic for it, but also let me remind you that Ice Always Melts is also streaming on all platforms. And when I say all, I keep getting emails telling me that it's streaming on stuff that I didn't even know existed, like Deezer, whatever Deezer is. I'll check out Deezer. But apparently I wrote a protest song back in 2016 too. And I was also reminded of one that I started back then that was called Walls Fall. And so I've been finishing that one up, and we'll get to that later. But either which way, I was ready to just, all right, suck it up, and here we go. We got to just skim this shit off the top. Oop. I did it as my first one. Hopefully it'll be my only one. Okay. Either which way. When it happened again, I just actually felt like my nervous system felt like I had been broken up with, even though my sweet partner was still very much with me. Like my whole body felt the way it would feel like when it was just like, like, whoa, like I'm in sorrow. I'm in sorrow right now. Like my soul hurts. But like things are happening exponentially fast. And it is one of those things where I've gathered a lot of evidence, if you will, to be able to say that now's a really good time to remind us what we have at our disposal, every single one of us. And I have been through some fires. I have been through some really crazy trials, and I'm still always going to be prepared to face whatever comes. Honestly, right now, leaning into this as a potential channel for an alternative to the 9 to 5, amongst other things, many other things in the fire as well. Oh, another reminder to myself. I am absolutely, even though if the nerves involved in this may not speak for it, but we'll get there. And trust me, I will very gladly put together the montage of me getting better and better at doing this, and then reminding myself that I was going to do that, and then being like, look, team, if you put your mind to it, because we haven't even talked about like the whole. Well, I want to do a segment, and this is a reminder to myself when I watch the video back. I did write a note, so I'm not going to completely forget it, but I just think you guys might get a kick out of this. I was laughing when I thought about it, because who is not in love with Heather Cox Richardson right now? I mean, who just is not, right? Just mwah, mwah. God's angel. But I was also like, I should do a segment that's like HCRTLDR. Yes. And I think that that would be appreciated, right? Because we love her. And of course I would just have her picture there the whole time. Like, I'm not trying to bite on her information. I just regurgitated a little bit in a, but anyway, I'm almost at time. This is going to be an adventure that I'm really excited about, and I have no idea how often it's going to be yet. So there's a lot of structure that's not set in place. What I do know is that I very well may go live at any given moment just because I feel like it, because I can be moved. I can be moved by the Spirit. Let's just be real. Or it may be something where I am just going to edit something together that I pre-recorded, and it's going to be a part of it, and it's just going to be segment this, segment that. It's going to blossom into what feels steady, what works. Because first and foremost, like, I 100% know that, like, I don't think anybody's watching right now, and that's okay. For a second, I was like, am I even on? I had to move my mouse. And that's totally okay, because initially the intention was just to pre-record these and edit them anyway. So I'm going to do that. Not to like over explain the process and talk about how the sausage is made or anything, but I just wanted the first one to be live. I wanted the first one to be full of my nerves. I wanted it to be full of me just really throwing myself at it and saying that it's going to be fun for me to let it just evolve. And there will be guests, and I've got potential guests lined up that I'm not going to say are locked in necessarily yet. And I certainly hope this first episode is not a deterrent, guys. I love you, and I think that we could have some very fruitful conversations. And even though I did say one potty word, I think I was actually really good about that, now that I think about it. I hope that was the only one that slipped out, because I'll be really proud of myself if it was. I'm looking forward to this also being very community built, and I'm not trying to create like some cyber community, because I do believe that I'm really interested in seeing how this spreads here locally as well, as far as even just being able to point local people to this. But more than anything, I think it's really important to share. Oh, how do I want to say it? I might go over a little bit of time because it's my show and I can do what I want. I just realized that's the whiteboard that I was hoping to have behind me this whole time. Found it. Collaborative, yes. Co-op. A co-op, if you will. There's certain things that... Oh, listen to that. The cat food. The cat food droppeth. That's the sign, y'all. Look at that. Ooh. There's going to be some angry cats here in a second if I don't open that door. That's funny. Co-op-y. I want to celebrate people in the community on the show as well. And one of the things that I can say is that if you're watching this and you're from Portland, Oregon, you're very likely to see me walking around the neighborhood, popping around, seeing what's going on, and what's kind of like almost putting like a journalistic hat on, if you will, but sniffing out community, sniffing out artists and people who are building things and art, spirit, science. Those are and making sure that you know when we feed ourselves through a resistance, it's very important that the fuel is not just rage, that it's righteous rage. And the righteous part of that comes from making sure that we are grounded and centered in love. And that is very cliche, but you'll definitely, I will die on the hill that cliches are cliches for a reason. And which is one of the reasons that I love being a wordsmith, because you're gonna find me. You're basically going to find me taking things that I know are cliche and then trying to reword it in a clever way so that like my song says, deviate, streaming on all platforms. I am ever endeavoring to be clever with everything. It is burning inside of me. I am relearning how to sing. And yes, the answer to that other question is that was me singing in the intro song, and that is the song Deviate. In case you didn't know, that's me. So, who we got there? Who we got there? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Nicole Whitehead is my cousin, and she is adorable, and I love her very much. It was so good seeing you at the Super Bowl party, girl. So even little things like that, I'm sure like once comments go popping off, I'll actually pay attention and I will shout them out for the live ones. But I might extrapolate and do some editing together to make podcasts that are just audio only. Anyway, my name is Buddy Rasberry, and yes, it is my real name. I was raised by a Pentecostal preacher in Portland, Oregon, and that explains a whole lot. Shout out to my biological dad / dado, Cecil, because I don't have enough time in one episode to unpack everything, but talking about my childhood is not the same as talking about from 14 years old on, and the most amazing relationship I've had with my biological dad, which has had its ups and downs and all sorts of things, of course, because that's how it goes. So I've got two dads. They were never married to each other, although they're not going to like that I say that they have a lot more in common than they realize. I guess that is on the record. It's really funny, though. I mean, the universe knew what it was doing, so it makes perfect sense. There was an intervention that happened that said, nah, he needs to be Buddy Rasberry. And part of that is owning the fact that doing things like this is in the bag of tricks. So I'm going to end this with one last time. 53 minutes. That's all right. That's all right. Good job. Being almost on time, buddy. Thank you. I can do other things. I have other tricks. Everywhere that you like to listen to your music, deviate. If you want to know, YouTube pays the most. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. I don't know if that screws up the algorithm or not, but it's true, which isn't very much, but that's okay. I don't make music for the money. I just want to be sustained. That's all. Now we'll put that back up. Ladies and gentlemen, and everywhere in between, And I fall more into the in-between part. Thank you very much. And I will figure out a more cooler way to end this than just replaying the intro. But if you're starting in the middle, I'm just going to give you the intro one more time so you know why it even happened. And then I'm going to end the show. I did it. I will be back. We're going to do this.
Yes, it's my real name. I was raised by a Pentecostal preacher from Mississippi in Portland, Oregon, which probably explains a lot. I wrote and performed my first song for my dad's church when I was just 10. Been a soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Been married, divorced, closeted, out, drunk for years, and sober for years. Been a good dad and a bad dad, and somehow lucky enough to be a young grandpa. This show exists because I'm a creator, and if something inspires me, there's a pretty good chance it'll inspire you too. Music, science, art, politics, religion, adorable cats and dogs, awe and gratitude, or why we laugh at our own farts. Somehow along the way I decided to go left instead of right, and now I'm addicted to breaking habits and noticing things. I'm Buddy Rasberry, and this is my show.
Woke up and decided I would